Welcome back to the morning show here on the Arise News channel. Still with us is Moyosore Onigbanjo, Senior Advocate of Nigeria, the Lagos State Attorney General and Commissioner for Justice. And we've been discussing with him the white paper on the Judicial Panel of Inquiry on police brutality and the Lekki toll gate incident of October 2020 here in Lagos. Well, thank you very much for staying with us, Mr. Onigbanjo. Well, a clarification and then a question. Now, there have been concerns expressed about the scope of the work of that panel. And some people say, look, many policemen died. Police stations were attacked. Many people had their businesses, affected in the course of the protest. But that the report that was eventually submitted by that panel, the Okuobe panel, did not even talk about the plight of policemen. Could it be that, the issues affecting policemen was not part of the terms of reference? Because I've had a comment to that effect. And then secondly, it's about the constitutionality, the legality of the panel itself. And that came to the public domain when it was raised by Minister of State for Labor and Employment, when he said, state governments have no powers whatsoever to inquire into affairs affecting the Nigerian Army or the police or any federal institution. And we know that 14 recommendations have now, in this white paper, been forwarded to the federal government for action. If indeed the tribunal the panel lacks jurisdiction and has no legal basis, then on what basis is the Lagos State government forwarding those 14 recommendations to the federal government?
Thank you, Dr. Abati. So, the Honorable Minister clarified that he was speaking for himself. He didn't say he was speaking for the federal government when he spoke. Secondly, as to the legality of the panel, I do not agree with him, with all due respect, because firstly, it was the National Economic Council that directed states to go and set up the judicial panels of inquiry. Then under the law, the panel of inquiry, the Tribunal of Inquiry Law of Lagos State, the state government is vested with the power to set up an inquiry into anything of public concern in the state. Now, what are we talking about here? Largely abuse of human rights. As far as I know, abuse of human rights is a matter on the residual list, which means it's only the states that can handle such matters. And in fact, there are a couple of Supreme Court cases which say categorically that the federal government cannot set up tribunals of inquiry for the federation. So on so many fronts, that statement by the Honorable Minister, Mr. Kiamu SAN, is incorrect. That's not the position of the law. On the issue of the allegation that the panel made no reference to policemen or didn't take them into consideration, to their credit, they did. They issued 2 reports. The report which leaked only dealt with the issues from the Lekki toll gate. There is another report which they issued which was not leaked. That report deals with all the NSAS petitions, about 253 in number. Out of that 253, policemen also brought their own petitions. And in that report, they awarded a sum of, I think, 36,200,000 to policemen who were affected one way or the other by protests. So they did, to be fair to them, they did consider the plight of policemen too. And even if you look at most of their recommendations, they're for better welfare for the police, better equipment, more training, psychological evaluation. So they took them into consideration. Most certainly they did.
Right. In the white paper, the Lagos state government goes to great lengths to show how they encouraged the panel, how they funded the panel, encouraged the media coverage of the panel, chose, quality representatives to, populate the panel. And yet the question arises, and I must ask you, were you, as the Lagos state government, put under pressure by the federal government to discredit this report? And I ask this because a member of the panel, Ebo Adeboruwa San, has raised concerns about personal attacks against him and members of the panel. You also will recall the allegations by a young lady who was involved in the panel that she was targeted and attacked, and another person was threatened.
So the federal government never put the Lagos state government under any pressure to discredit the panel or anybody. Secondly, if you check the records, nobody from Lagos state government discredited the panel. When they in fact submitted the report on the 15th of November 2021, the governor praised them and thanked them for the job they did. Even yesterday, in a speech which he made before the white paper was released, he thanked them again. So nobody from the Lagos state government, directly or indirectly, has sought to discredit members of the panel. We appreciate the job they did for almost 13 months, putting aside everything to attend to this. So we will not do that, and we did not do it.
All right, and speaking of that, so what would you say as regards the interview conducted here when the lawyer for the government, defamed the character of the members of the panel, even talked about bribery? I'm talking about the lawyer that represented the Lagos state government. That interview that happened when the leaked report came up. That's one.
Mr. Owonikoko.
Mr. Owonikoko. Two, what's the rationale behind the peace pack, all right, as regards healing? Then the rationale behind toll-free day on the 20th of October, but also saying in the white paper that we will not make the toll gate a memorial because nothing has been proven that happened or substantiated that happened. What's the rationale about those three decisions?
Okay, so first, regarding Mr. Owonikoko SAN. Mr. Owonikoko SAN represented Lagos state government before the panel. His brief ended when the panel finished its work. Mr. Owonikoko is also not a spokesperson for the Lagos state government. And you must also understand, Mr. Owonikoko SAN conducted this matter. So he must have his views on the matter. This is something that he did for 13 months. So it's not a surprise to me, just like other people who participated in the process. You've also called them, they've expressed their views. It doesn't mean that they're speaking on behalf of anybody. They are entitled, everybody, the four of us in this room, we're entitled to have our views as to what happened. It doesn't mean if your views don't tally with somebody else's that you're the government's agent. No. Secondly, regarding the young lady that unfortunately was attacked, again, we do not condone such attacks on anybody. The Lagos state government, I think we've conducted ourselves in such a manner that we strove to always do what is right. We complied with the law. We set up the panel. So if we didn't even want the panel, there are so many ways it could have been stopped. They asked for extension, we gave them. The initial funding was 200 million. They exhausted it. They asked for more. We gave them. We appointed independent-minded people into the panel. And the panel itself said in its report that they give credit to the Lagos state government for allowing them to be completely independent. All these acts are not actions of somebody who will then be going after a witness. To what purpose? For what motive? The report is out. It's in the public domain. And so all these allegations people make against the state government, most of it is just based on, mistrust, lack of trust for what government does. But if you check from the day this incident happened to this day, Lagos State government has fulfilled all its promises to the public. We set up an independent panel. We said we would release a white paper, we did. So, we've complied with the law all the way.
Okay, so the second question. What's the rationale behind the Peace Park?
Peace Park, yeah.
And at the same time,
The toll-free
day on the 20th of October, but you're saying you're not going to create a memorial because nothing happened. That's what you're saying in the white paper. Yeah.
So that is to show you that we recognize that those were difficult days for the state. Not just in Lekki. People died in Fagba, Ikorodu, Oshodi, in so many places. And in recognition of what happened during that time, also remember that the state government supported the NSAS protest. The governor went there to meet the protesters. He spoke to them. He took their 5 for 5 demands to the president. He was the first to also set up the panel to probe allegations against SARS. The toll-free day is in the spirit of reconciliation, closure. The Peace Park is also in the same spirit. So this is government. You must try to bring everybody back together again.
So why wouldn't you memorialize and you'll give a toll-free day at that toll gate?
Memorialize by putting the names. What names? What names do you put? And then, what about all the other people in Fagba, in all these places?
Okay, another clarification and then questions. When the Lagos State government admits that it would have a toll-free day on that Lekki toll gate, where does that leave persons, protesters, stakeholders who are saying, in fact, there should be no toll gate at that particular point anymore? Is the Lagos State government saying invariably that the managers of that particular toll gate, I think the LCC, will very soon be reinstated? Because that was a major issue during the proceedings. That's one. Two, then what are the next steps that the Lagos State government will take in this regard? And then the peace walk that the governor proposed for the month of December. Some of the stakeholders that he invited have said they won't be part of it. Would the state government still go ahead with that peace walk in December? And is the state government likely to make any effort to persuade the civil society activists who say they don't believe in any idea of a peace walk? They just want justice.
So, regarding the issue of the toll gate, it was never one of the terms of reference of the panel. It came up before them because the LCC said, recall, the panel said nobody should go to the toll gate for a very long time. They even prevented the LCC, the owners of the toll gate, from going back into their own offices. The LCC then applied before the panel that, look, we need to make claims, insurance claims, and insurance valuers need to access the site. Let us back there. That's how come that issue came before the panel, because the panel said, don't go there because we want to send forensic experts there. So it was, if you look at their terms of reference, the issue of reopening or closing the toll gate was never one of their terms of reference. As regards the issue of some civil society members who have said that they will not participate in the peace walk, of course, government will seek to persuade them to change their mind, because ultimately we all thrive in peace. There is no government that wants to see a war-torn city, a war-torn state, or even a state in which there's so much tension. So we will continue to talk to members of the civil society. We will continue to demonstrate government's good faith. We will continue to demonstrate government's sincerity by showing them all the steps that we have taken in the past 13 months that we arrived at where we are now. It's a continuous engagement.
Well, the clarification I asked for, I don't have it yet. Would the SEC return very soon to the toll gate at Lekki and at the Link Bridge? And then those toll gates would come back and people will begin to pay tolls again.
So that's a determination for the LCC to make. It's a decision they will take, and I'm sure when they take it, members of the public will be the first to know.
Well, as we just wrap up in a minute, less than a minute now, what are some of the reasons you feel that those who have rejected the governor's invitation to join him on the peace walk, what are some of the reasons why you feel they should reconsider that position?
Well, so most of them issued those statements immediately after the governor's speech, before the white paper was released. When they see the white paper, and when they also, because most people have not read the panel's report. The leaked version has been out there, and I'm sure, again, 309 pages, not many people would have the appetite to sit through and read it. But for anyone to come to a fair determination of what has happened and the actions that government has taken in the white paper, they need to read the two reports. And then they will see that government is being fair. Most of the recommendations were accepted. The ones that Lagos State government didn't have power to take decisions on, we referred them to the appropriate authorities. We've accepted most of the panel's recommendations, and we rejected very few.
Well, 32 recommendations, 11 accepted, 1 rejected, 6 modified, 14 forwarded to the federal government for relevant action. We want to thank you very much, Mr. Onigbanjo Moyosore, Attorney General and Commissioner of Justice for Lagos State, for joining us. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you very much.